All right, welcome back to another episode of The Money Pillow. And this week we're actually doing something a little bit different. I don't know how to put this, but essentially leveraged my audience to kind of climb up the ranks pretty quick in iTunes, which exposed me to a whole new group of people that have no clue who I am. And so shortly after I launched, I started getting a lot of emails, tweets, Facebook messages, you name it, just saying, who are you and what's your story? And I love it. And so I thought, you know what a fun idea would be, I guess, just to tell my story so everybody who's listening and has listened all along can kind of get an idea. A lot of people know me and know, I have a decent little following and fan base, but there's apparently a lot of people who don't. So I thought I could bring a lot of value and share my story. And I looked back over the last few years and thought, who have I done interviews with that I truly enjoyed the interview and I thought they were a great interviewer? And there were two names that came to mind. I won't say the other name, so I won't hurt anybody's feelings, but the one that was my first choice, and I just thought, well, it's a 50-50 shot. He's really busy, always got stuff going on, but I'll reach out and see what he says. And it was Andrew Warner of Mixergy. And if you guys aren't familiar with Mixergy, be sure to check that out. It's an amazing thing that Andrew's got going and had going for a long time. But Andrew interviewed me, I don't know what, Andrew, was about a year ago, 2 years ago? And I still, like, you have such a big reach and a big audience that I still get at least monthly, if not every other week, if not weekly, get messages from people. Oh, I heard your show on Mixergy. I love it, blah, blah. And I've actually gotten calls on Clarity from that. So anyway, I reached out to Andrew and I was like, hey, I have people want to hear my side of things. And would you be interested in interviewing me for my show? And you were like, hell yeah, let's do it. So thank you so much. And
you're okay with me asking the kinds of questions that I would ordinarily ask, like prying questions about your money, being a little skeptical, because frankly, I am a little bit of this whole thing that you're doing. And I will, of course, focus on the journey and how you did it. But you're open to that. Absolutely.
You can say, this is what's going to be fun, is because I feel like I'm not tough on my guests, but I ask a lot of private and personal questions. And fortunately, people, for the most part, have been willing to just release it. And now the tables are turned. But you're even tougher, so this is going to be great.
How much money are we talking about here? How much money are you making now?
Oh, God, we're just going to get right to it. So the business brings home, we have about 35% profit margins, do a couple million a year in revenue, about $700,000 that I split with a business partner.
$700,000 net?
Yeah.
And what are you doing that you're getting $700,000 a year?
So
net profit.
Are you familiar with Adult Friend Finder? That's a joke. And if you know that, you're a bad person. I have a publishing and marketing company, and in layman's terms, what that is we, our marketing side of things, we build an audience and sell products to them, mainly through the form of webinars. In fact, as soon as we're done with this, I'm jumping on a webinar, and how that looks is I'm bringing on an expert, actually for one of the products that we publish, and she will teach for an hour, give a bunch of great content, and at the end say, okay, if you've enjoyed this and you want more, we have this training. And so the marketing side of our business basically markets products like that. And I'd say 80% of our revenue from that aspect of the business comes in through providing educational forums like webinars, and then at the end asking for a sale. And then the publishing side of our business and the product side of our business is we've created a bunch of digital trainings, mainly around social media marketing or online marketing. And we sell those, and we've gotten to the point, we'll dig into this later with kind of the money pillow aspect of this business, but we don't do any paid advertising or very little. In fact, it's just ongoing business, affiliate traffic, search, and just word of mouth, if you will.
What kind of digital trainings? What are some of the things that you teach?
So we teach mainly social media marketing is kind of our forte. My business partner and I, and we can kind of dig into my background later and how I got to here, but we both were early on kind of seen as experts in different parts of social media. Myself, Twitter, and my business partner, Lewis, in LinkedIn. And we got together, created some high price trainings originally, and then we moved to a model where we said, let's take these high price trainings, make them better, and then sell them at a really low price. And we kind of did that, and we kind of bucked the trend in the market. And I think that's what's created a real sustainable business for us.
Because the products are so highly priced.
Yeah, no, because they're so low priced, but high value.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay. And so people, I mean, our refund rates are, depending on the product, on the low end 3%, on the high end 7-8%, and probably average around 5%. So, and that's for a digital product that has no real tangible asset to it, that literally just requires shooting an email saying I want a refund, and we just refund it with no questions. So it's people generally that have digital products are blown away with that kind of result.
So Sean, I'm really curious about how you built it up this big, because this is phenomenal success here. But here's the part that I'm skeptical about. You're selling this idea of money pillow, make money while you sleep.
Right.
And I don't know that someone who gets into business with the idea that he wants to sleep already is going to make it in business, number one. And so I feel like the promise isn't real. And number two, it's 4:45 right here, Pacific time. You and I are going to talk for another 45 minutes. After that, you have to record a webinar where you're selling for an hour. Where's the pillow part? I mean, it seems like you're working all the time.
Okay, this morning I woke up, spent some time with my kids. I worked for a few hours, went surfing, had lunch, then I went and bought a new surfboard, and then now here I am with you. So that's my typical day. No, and to be honest, there are times, so that kind of the concept of the money pillow is not, the dream is, make money while you sleep. But there are always going to be periods of hustle, and there's going to be people who use that freedom they get from their business to travel the world, to have fun, to do what they want, whenever they want. And there's others who use that time to focus on a different business idea that they have, where they're not generating any revenue, but they've got the freedom to do that because they're getting paid from their money pillow, if you will. So there's a lot of people that I interview that still work 40, 50 hours a week, not much more than that, because they really don't have to, but they're focused and they're passionate about building something that truly has them excited, more so than whatever they've built already that's allowed them that kind of freedom. So, and I will say this, in the last 2 years, there has not been a night where in my sleep I have not generated sales of our products. So
because people are going online every day and buying from you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can see this, but this is like one of our products, and that's the profit side of things. I don't know if you can see that.
I see $443. What was that?
That was profit from this particular product yesterday.
And one person bought it, or is it total for the day?
And that's about 10 people buying it, or 7 to 10, depending on how many affiliate sales. But like, this was another, the same product. You can see 2:21 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. there were sales that came in. So every night there are sales that come in, and that's the beauty of having a marketplace that is available via the internet. Is things are, and this doesn't have to be information products like I particularly have. Melanie and Devin Duncan have a clothing business, and they'll tell you that every single night while they're sleeping, they get dozens of orders. They're doing a much bigger business. Well, not dozens, but they get orders every night as well. So people can buy on the internet 24 hours a day. And, when you have a business, whether it's a physical product or a digital product, as long as you have a storefront on the internet or a presence on the internet where you can accept payments, most people I know that have a semi-successful business will be generating sales while they sleep as well.
I saw a little bit of what you just showed me on the iPhone. I couldn't see a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. Here's what I would want if I was in the audience. If I ever got to meet you in person, I would think if I were in the audience, would you show me your iPhone and let me see that in person?
Yeah, you know what? There's times where in conversation I feel like it's really relevant, but I always feel like it's tacky to pull it out. So I'm like fighting myself because I don't want to be like...
So if the person who's listening to us gets to talk to you at a conference, or I don't know what, maybe they come down to the beach in Southern California, they get to talk to you. Would you consider them rude if they said, can I see the orders directly?
As long as they said to me, Andrew said I could.
Right.
Then I would know that it's referencing this and they're not some creepster. But yeah, I have no problem. And that happens day in, day out. I can sort this and show you a year's worth of sales if you want. You'd just be like, really, bro? I mean, like every single day they generate sales.
So what about that other part? And again, I want to know how you built it up to this, because I know it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
I've seen you and I've known you for a long time, and I know that this has taken some time to build. I want to know how you built it, and I also want to know how you systemize the business to place where You don't have to be there and constantly manage everything. I remember one of the people one of the couples you interviewed, Melanie and I forget what's her husband's name? Devin, that they talked a lot about how they had to systemize, get themselves physically out of the office so that the office could run without them. And I want to know how you did that for your business. But just let's close this part of the conversation down. How did you? What about this idea that we're sending people into business with their goal being to sleep, with the goal of surfing, as opposed to saying, do what you love, do something you love so much that you wouldn't mind doing at night, that you wouldn't mind doing it all day, that you wouldn't care about surfing as much as you care about doing this. And that's the only way to really build a successful business.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so, man, I just got lost. You mentioned surfing, and I started thinking down that track. What was the question again?
Can we tell the audience that they can start a business with the attitude that they're looking forward to enjoying life on a surfboard?
Yes.
And shouldn't we be saying to them the only way to succeed is if you're so rabidly passionate about your business that you don't care about surfing, you don't care about sleeping, you just want to make it?
No. And I don't think there's any wrong with that approach. And if you do work your ass off, I generally think success will follow. But there's two ways to look at it. That's one of the big things I've learned from interviewing now, I think over 50 people who have businesses like this, is that many of them, the one thing they all have in common is that they have the mindset of being able to empower people or put people in place to do work that they are currently doing, and they can do it to the point that they can pay them a fraction of what they're earning and still earn great money, and then someone else is doing the work, or they put systems in place. The one thing all these people have in common is that they have that mindset that it is possible. And that's generally, when I've done these interviews, I've discovered until they adapt that mindset, they were working that 60, 80 hours a week. And we have people that have done it 3 years in and then adapted that mindset within 6 months, gone from 80 hours down to 8. And the business is, I don't think I've had one yet where the business has dropped. Almost every time it's gone up. And it's funny because we think we're so smart and we're all control freaks and we have to do everything ourselves. And it's what I find most of the time being truth. And I have some personal examples. We can go into this later, where you empower other people to do it. Generally, they're going to do as good a job of you, and oftentimes they're going to do it better. And oftentimes the work that they do will generate more profit because they're doing it faster, they're doing it on time, they're doing it consistently. And when you try and do so many things as a business owner because you think you're so important that you have to do it because nobody else is capable, oftentimes you get too much going on, and then you just focus on what's most important then, and then other things go by the wayside. So
this is something, actually, to be honest with you, this is something that I need to work on. I need to figure out how to not be in the office and I actually rent an office. I don't want to be in the office till 7 o'clock every night. I don't want to have to take my work home with me. I want to go home and be creative, think about what's next. In fact, I want to come to the office and be creative and think about what's next for my business. And I want to hear how you did it so I can learn.
Yeah.
Let's go back to where you started.
But and let me just bring up, hold on. Hold that thought. One more point. Okay. If anybody is listening to this has not listened to the Mike Teku and Mike Hansen interview, they're the guys that have the photo booth. From day one, they built a business that has become in less than a year became a 7-figure business, and it's so passive, it's unbelievable. And they had that. I asked them, that exact question. They had that mentality from the get-go. What their business was to build photo booths, and they were actually going to rent these photo booths out for weddings, graduations, all these fun things. And so they said, let's set this up. So we build multiple photo booths. We hire a college kid to run it. We'll run Google Ads. We'll have my sister answer the phone to take the credit card payments, or we'll set up an online cart. And then all we have to do is, I don't know. And so that's how they set it up from the beginning. And they were earning $30,000 to $40,000 for a while. And then they met somebody and they said, hey, you should sell these things. There's companies that sell these to people who are using them for the weddings and your competition. And so they started selling them. And at that point, they sold them for $8,000 a pop. They anticipated doing 10 their first year. They thought, if we do that, we'll double our wages. And they ended up selling 12 their first month. And so think about it. They have 12 customers who I think 100% of them find them via Google AdWords or SEO. They place an order online, or they pick up the phone and call. One of the guy's sister answers. So it's very low. I mean, they literally took 3 months off and went on a motorcycle trip. And they, from the very beginning, though, set it up with the intention of trying to set up a money pillow style business, and have been tremendously successful. I think within a year and a half, they crossed over $1 million in sales, and they're right now doing over $100,000 a month in revenue.
I don't know how I missed that one. I've got you in my podcast feed, and for some reason I didn't hear that one.
That honestly is one of my favorite ones.
Okay, so when you started, what did you know? How tech savvy were you? How with it were you when it came to information products?
Okay, so we probably need to. Well, not very at all. Well, I take it back. I had a little bit of an advantage. In fact, we could probably just rewind, and I can kind of give you some insight into how it all came about. In my early 20s, I took a job as a mortgage broker. And I was actually working, at the time I was working my ass off. I was working at a skateboard shop, which really didn't feel like work. It was fun. But it was 30 hours a week. I was waiting tables at night, which was work, but it was amazing money and it was a lot of fun as well. And they fed me well and they gave me beer and good cash. And there was a great group of people that worked there. And then the other job I had in between the skateboard shop job and the restaurant was to pick up the phone and call people and generate leads for a mortgage company. And I hated that job. I hated it so much, but I just said, screw it. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to do work.
Are you not cursing, by the way, on your program?
I try not to because somebody told me they let their kids listen to it, and I think it's amazing. Okay. So I might, and if I do, I apologize if you're listening. Just explain that it's what adults say. I shouldn't say it because I have kids, so I respect that. But anyway, so my goal was I'm gonna generate twice as many leads as the other guy here because I know that when I work hard, generally the time goes by faster, and I feel better about myself. And so I wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. And what ended up happening was I did that. I accomplished that. And the owner of the company was like, you should not be generating these leads. You should be closing these leads and selling the mortgages. And trained me, did that for, 9 years, 8 years. And that was great. I was able to leave the skateboard shop and the restaurant place and went from, 22, 23, making 10 grand a month, which is back in the late 90s. It was a lot of money back then. And living in Columbus, Ohio with that kind of money was awesome. And so I did that for a number of years, and I saw the writing on the wall with the housing market, the mortgage market. I saw one bank after another starting to close up, and programs getting tighter and restricting. And at the same time, I saw real estate values starting to plummet. So I made the transition from then into real estate. But one of the cool things that I got really excited about at the mortgage company is the last company I worked for. I actually managed a company for a number of years, took a VP role, and decided that wasn't for me because I was working 80 hours a week and my sales guys were working 20 and making more than me. And so I switched. I went to this company where I could do direct outbound marketing. So I wouldn't have to actually pick up the phone and call people back. They were calling me instead from marketing that we had mailed out.
You could just close.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, they want to talk to me. They're calling me as opposed to like, oh, this telemarketer talked me into giving me your number and all my information. And I really don't want to talk to you, So they would let us send out 2,000 letters a week. And I started working on those letters, and with the owner of the company, at one point said, hey, can I work with you to kind of A/B test these letters, if you will? I read the copy, and I think we might be able to improve it. And so we did, and the results were phenomenal. In fact, there was one point, Andrew, where a lot of people in the company thought I was stealing leads or just answering the phone and not passing it on to the guy they were asking for and all this stuff. And but that's how well the phone was ringing for me, and based on the marketing. So it was fascinating to me to see that I could send 2,000 letters, get 12 calls. If I made some tweaks in the copy, I could get 20 calls. If I made further tweaks, I could get 28. If I changed the color of the paper or the headline or blah, 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 And we ended up adapting that company-wide. We all kind of prospered. But that was kind of my first, wow, I love marketing. And I love, I get this idea, I can apply it, and then I can see results. And you kind of get
see financial results too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't think about it from that. I think of it more of like a validation of intelligence. I think I'm smarter than smart enough to understand what the consumer will get. And I'd say 80% of the time when I come up with an idea and test it versus a current thing, I get it right. So I'm fascinated by that. And that kind of initiated my love for marketing. I left the mortgage business, went into real estate, and I had actually my business partners who fired me a couple of years before, which was great. The day before I got fired, or a couple of days before I got fired, I turned down a management position at another company. And
why were you fired?
Because we were required to work Saturdays, which I thought was ridiculous, but I did it because it was good money and whatever. We were required to go in for 4 hours on Saturday and hammer the phones. And the day before was actually my birthday. And it was 25, 26, 24. And I just partied all night. And 3 of my friends had crashed at my place. And we got up. I called in sick. I said, hey, I'm not coming in. I'm not feeling well. And
you got fired for that?
It was completely true. Yeah. I wasn't.
Even though you were doing so well with sales and
I was the number one or the number 2 guy, one of the top 2. And I think they didn't like that. I was getting kind of cocky probably. And just because I knew I was the top guy, so I've had this attitude, they probably can't do anything to me, and I probably pushed it a little too far. But still, I don't understand why it happened. I really don't. But and they ended up camping outside my house and watching me get up and leave and go to breakfast, and said they were firing me because I lied and said I was sick. And I said, well, I never said I was. And they said they were driving by, which is kind of random.
They said they drove by and saw that you were having a good time.
Our office was about 4 blocks away, so there is a chance that they drove by 11 o'clock that morning when I was stumbling to go get breakfast.
But frankly, even if they are, who points this out?
Yeah, right. See, it was all bizarre.
Say, hey, you know what?
Yeah, I didn't say I was sick. I said I wasn't feeling well, and I'm hungover as hell. I'm not feeling well, And so anyway, it was what it was. That Monday, I picked up the phone and said, hey, I turned you down, but I think we can work something out. If you could just increase my salary to this, I'll take the position. And they said, done. When can you start? I said, tomorrow. I'll be there. So it worked out. I worked that job for a while, continued on mortgages for a number of years. Then the same guys who let me go, one of the partners who said he had nothing to do with it, and it was the other partner, started a bank, came into my mortgage company. Oh my God, how you been? 5 years have passed at this point. We chit chat. He came in right as I was looking at a real estate deal. I'd started buying real estate, residential real estate to buy and hold. And Don't
take this the wrong way, but I'm kind of antsy to figure out how you got to the $700,000 profit business.
Okay, I'll just.
But no, I want to know the backstory too. But
so he said to me, we should form, in more words than less, we should form a real estate company. I've got my mortgage license. You can come over here, do the same thing you're doing at the mortgage company you're working for now. Do it here. I'll pay you a much higher percent. You can work less. We'll start a real estate company. Boom. That blossomed into buying. Like, first year we bought 4 properties. Second year 30. The third year like 100. We've ramped way up. We started a real estate brokerage. We had some agents working for us. It was just this awesome business. And at one point, though, I was working 3 years in. We had probably around 70 units we were holding. And I think it was a 4-year run, if I'm not mistaken. And when I left, we had over 100 residential units. 3 years in, I read The 4-Hour Work Week. And it shifted my mindset. And I know you've read that book.
Yep.
And
actually, I heard the audiobook version of it, and man, is that good.
Is it good?
The narrator is really good.
Yeah.
He picked the right guy.
Yes. And you can get that on audible.com. I think it's not a done deal yet, but they're going to be sponsoring this show, which is.
That's where I heard it.
You did hear it? Yeah.
That's where I heard it, and it makes so much sense that Tim wouldn't read it himself. As much as I wanted his voice, he obviously needs to outsource it, and he picked someone who makes it sound. He picked a dynamic speaker, not someone who's just reading it, but someone who's like, here's the inside stuff that you don't want, that no one wants you to know. Let me reveal it without sounding over the top. I really enjoyed it. It kept me running, which is how I usually listen to your podcast and to Audible.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so in that book changed the way I looked at my business. At the time, in my real estate business, because it was something I really enjoyed, was doing all the I was doing all the marketing for the company, and this was marketing to buy homes, marketing to sell homes. Marketing to lease homes. Just any form of marketing that real estate can do. That's what I was doing. And so we were running ads. I had a budget, $3, $4, $5 a month for print. I did some print, did some radio, did some TV, did this, did that, did blah, 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 you name it. And at that point, too, we had started messing around with Facebook ads. This is like 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. I had tremendous results with that. And that's what kind of started my excitement about social media. But when I read that book, I realized, like, oh my God, I'm doing so many things so stupid. And I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Identify these things. So number one, it was all the advertising. Every week I would pick up the phone and call the person at the main newspaper, call the person at the local newspapers, call the radio guy, call the blah, 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 and just spend 3-4 hours doing that. And when I got back, I called him and I said, you know what? The ad you're running, keep running it. Here's my credit card information. Keep running this until I call you and tell you to stop. And then I thought, well, God, I got to put something in place to make sure these ads are working. So I called a telemarketing company who was answering our phones and all the incoming calls. And I said, can you add a field and ask them where they heard about us? Yeah, sure. Which is so stupid, right? But I hadn't thought about it. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm spending all this time managing these agents and checking. They get all these leads every day. Each agent gets 8 to 10 leads and making sure they're following up. So I hacked together this system with Gmail where they had to use labels and notes to identify every call, right? What happened on that call. I left a message. I talked to them. They're hot. I closed that deal, blah, blah, blah. And then I had a $3 an hour person in another country once a week logging into their Gmail accounts, tallying up the totals from those things, putting it on a report and give it to me. And that 6 to 10 hours a week in managing these agents and follow up and all this stuff literally went to about 30 minutes a week. And it was that times all these things. I went from 80 hours down to 20 hours a week. And it was so bad, Andrew. And my business partners were just from a little bit different generation. They were actually really cool and great guys, and I enjoy their company. But the Midwest is a different place. And I think people, and I hate to say this, I'm 38. Yeah, 38. And I think people that were born 5 to 10 to 15 years before me are just from another planet. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but what I mean is from work and mentality and ethics. The majority, and this isn't everybody, because I've met some amazing people, obviously, but especially in the Midwest, you get this mentality that we get up, we go to work every day for 30 years, we retire, we live in the same neighborhood, and you have a few entrepreneurs outside of that break those molds, but it's a very typical thing. And even the entrepreneurs believe in working themselves to death. And so they got kind of mad at me that I was not working as much as they were. We were drawing equal salaries. We had equal interest in the company. And I just looked at them and I said, there's so many things you could be doing that could streamline all this work you're doing. And my one partner says, like, what? And I said, well, I don't know. Every day you sit there, you get imagine going 100 properties, you get a stack of mail this tall, right? We get electric bills, water bills, blah, 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 blah. And he would open the mail. I want to say every day. If not every day, it seemed like every day. And spend 3-4 hours. He would open the bank account. He would set up bills to pay based on when they're due. He'd file them, do all this stuff. And I said one day, when he asked me, what could I do to streamline my work? I said, well, you spend 30 hours a week opening mail and paying bills. And we have a $12 an hour person who could do the same thing. And then once a week, give you a report in folders, itemized, saying this is what it is. This is how much I pay. Well, she'll screw up the water bill. The water bills are always wrong. And who cares? Just the time it takes you to open the envelopes. If you had her do that and file it, would say.
I get that mentality. And it also feels like, why should I pay someone else to do something that I don't do? What am I too good for this? And this person is not.
It's not about that.
It's not about that. It's a wrong attitude. I understand that they're wrong. I identify with it, though, because there have been times in my life where I've thought that way, too. And you don't even realize that you're thinking.
You don't. You don't. And I bet to this
antiquatedly.
day he still does that.
Wow.
And the other business partner managed all of the crews. And there were times when I would manage the crews. We would share duties in that. And what I mean by that, the rehab crews. We'd buy these beat up houses, and then we'd bring in a crew of one guy who managed 4 to 8 people. And they would come in a 3-week period, just completely turn these houses around, make them amazing. And we got it down to a science, and the crews were over and over. But I would always have 4 guys meet me at the house at one time, because I didn't want to spend 4 separate hours walking the house with the contractors. I had them all walk with me, and I felt like the group psychology was that their bids would be lower because they realized they had competition. And so I brought them all together, and we'd walk through the whole house. We'd walk out, and I said, within 24 hours, get me a bid, shoot me an email, fax it, do whatever you want to do. And that bid needs to include how much it's going to be, how much each week you're going to get done. If it's a 3-week job, a 4-week job, what's going to get done during those weeks, and what you anticipate the draws being. And they would do that, and I would go there once a week on Friday. I would take that bid they sent me. I'd say, okay, you got this, this, and this done. And oftentimes there are all these variables. Well, we didn't anticipate the opening the floor up and finding this, so we had to do all of this, but we did get this and this done. So it's cool. I'd spend 10 minutes there, cut them a check. I hired guys that had credit, so I wasn't running to the paint store and the hardware store and buying them tools and supplies. And so my business partner was doing that. And he was spending 40 to 60 to 80 hours a week managing 3 to 4 crews. And I just thought, that's asinine. And when I brought that up to the other business partner, he said, it's a good thing, because when we work together in the office, we fight. And when he's out on the field, as long as that shit's getting done, I don't care if he takes them all the time. I'm like, but that just seems backwards to me. Like, why wouldn't you want him spending 5 hours a week on that and then spending that energy on generating profit for the business in some fashion or another?
I've done some of the things that you're talking about, where I reduce the time that I work, and I find that 2 things happen that screw it up for me. The first is new work just suddenly pops up and I end up doing it. And the second is other people see that I'm so efficient and they say, Andrew can do it. And then they pile more stuff on my plate. So one way or the other, I eliminate work, and then it just comes right back.
Are these your employees that bring it back to you?
It's my employees, but it's also outside people.
Well,
and especially in a company where you're working with other people who are at your level, didn't you find that would happen? That they would say, hey, you know what? This guy Sean seems to be doing less work than us. It's unfair. We have this new project. Let's just put it on him.
Yeah, and that would happen. But I would say, wait a minute. That is your responsibility. We have an equal partnership. My roles have always been this, 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 and this. Your roles are this, this, and this, and this. Yes, I'm working a lot less, but look at my results. Even since literally our vacancy rates went from 87% to 96% when I implemented these systems.
I see. So you want to be really clear about your responsibilities and the limits of them, and other people's responsibilities and how they have to keep doing them even if you have extra time.
Yeah, most people feel like they're dependent in that scenario on the other person who's asking them in some fashion or another. But generally, most of those relationships where they'll take it because they're afraid of saying no, because they don't want to let that person down, or they don't want anything to happen in that relationship. But I think people generally, as long as you know your roles and the other person knows their roles, you're doing yours, you're doing it. My whole thing is whatever job you're doing, do the best fucking job you can at it. Do an amazing job. And at the end of the day, if you're doing your roles and you're doing a great job at it, it doesn't matter if you do it in 1 hour a week or 100 hours a week, as long as it's getting done. And if that person gets upset and wants to just put work onto your plate because they're feeling like they're working too hard, it's like, no, wait a minute.
What about
that is
you've
your
got
role.
family? Doesn't your wife end up saying, hey, Sean, forget surfing. Forget just sitting back and thinking. We need to get the groceries. We need to go and take this out.
Yeah, that's a problem. I really didn't get my business super streamlined until about a year ago when I moved to California. And it was a little bit of a problem. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going surfing again. And, she's just running around doing this and that with the kids. And so to compensate for that, I just said, how do you need me? How can I help you? Oh, you want to go to the gym every day? Okay, cool. When 10, 6, 11, 12, whatever, just tell me. I'll be there with the kids. I'll do that. And that's the thing at the end of the day, too. It's just like, in a relationship, be the best guy you can be. Be the best husband. Be the best boyfriend, best fiance, whatever. Be the best one you can be. As a father, be the best one you can be. At the end of the day, if you know you're an amazing guy, you've earned the right to use your free time, however you want, in my opinion. And she cannot get upset with me if I say I'm going to go surfing. And what are you going to get upset for? Well, it's not my fault that you haven't designed your life in a way that you can do your passions. And
yeah, it's really hard. I think I need Olivia, my wife, to buy into it, or else this stuff just comes back at me. And I mean, buy into things like I end up having more free time, and she'll say, then why don't you go to Trader Joe's for us? So I'll say, well, Olivia, how about we just hire someone from Exec or TaskRabbit? We're in San Francisco. There are 500 different startups all geared towards getting stuff for us. She has to buy into that mentality. She has to accept that other people will do it for us, and that's okay, that we're going to spend money on it, and that's okay, that it doesn't mean that they're worse than us or we're better than them. It just is.
It's funny you say that, because my wife has an issue with that too. I said, why don't we have the maid come twice a week? I hate to see you cleaning here and there, and it's $75 a visit, and our house looks amazing. And it brings, not only is it clean, but it just brings us joy. I swear, if I walk into a sparkling house, it's like, oh,
I love discovering that someone just folded the towels perfectly.
Right?
And like this,
yes.
We had this service in DC that would fold them into different shapes, like different animals almost.
A laundry service?
All right, so take me to this business. What's the name of the business that does $700,000? Are we talking about? I'm on your LinkedIn profile, so you tell me if it's is it Inspired Marketing?
Yeah, I haven't updated my LinkedIn profile in forever. I need to do that. I was thinking
it's still really well done. I like how it's written for humans, but I can also see the keywords in there that would help me find you.
Yes, that was written 3 years ago, and Lewis is like the LinkedIn king and did it as an example on a webinar one day.
Okay, so Inspired Marketing, how do you get started with Inspired Marketing? I got so many questions. We got to hustle here because I know you don't have much time.
My business partner started hating me because I was working in the real estate business, very, very little, and they were working hard, and they blah, blah, blah. And I had learned a lot of things about marketing online, working with that company, doing all the marketing. So I learned YouTube marketing, I learned blogging, I learned all these things, right? And
all because of the previous business.
Yeah, I learned email marketing. So I knew a lot of things already, and I'd seen how they work and tested and played, and I studied that stuff because it was important to that business.
Give me an example of how you were using YouTube back then.
Are you in front of your computer? You're obviously in front of your computer.
Yeah.
Can you do it for me?
Yeah.
Go to Google.
Okay.
And search Columbus, Ohio, rent to own.
Here, let me do it on this screen here.
I'm going to do it too. I haven't done this in like a year, but I'm going to guess it's still there. I'm going to guess. And what Andrew's looking for is a YouTube video.
Let me see.
This is actually a cool story.
So it might actually, do you want to see my screen here? Check it out.
Can I see it? Oh, I used to have, I'm looking at your screen. Do you see any videos?
No, actually, for some reason, there are no videos in here.
Okay, search lease option. Columbus, Ohio lease option.
Okay.
Oh, you searched rent a home and it's rent to own, but
Oh,
good.
okay.
Okay, yeah, rent. You searched the wrong thing. That's right.
Okay.
So see that first video?
Yeah, rent to own home lease option.
Yeah, click that,
Okay.
and look how many views this has.
7,800 views. This is the one?
Yeah, so you can look at that channel. They deleted a bunch of videos off there, but it used to have over 200,000 views for like 80 videos or 70 videos. So that shows up high on Google. And all it is me standing in front of this ugly little house going, here we are at 123 Case Road, and let me give you a visual tour of it. So I just walk through it and put it on YouTube. And within 6 months of putting videos of every one of our properties, we started getting 5 calls a day from YouTube videos, from people that found us on the internet through the YouTube videos.
I took my, I realized I had my branding on this. I thought that's kind of, I didn't want to push the branding. So that's why suddenly the slide disappeared.
Oh, it's fine. I love it. So that's how I was using YouTube. And we would put that on our website. And what it ended up doing was the people that watched the video of the home before they went to see it with the agent, instead of the agent having to show that home to 5 people, they had to show it to 2 people.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So it made my agent's job easier. It made people finding us better. We closed more deals as a result.
I know when we were renting here in San Francisco, there were a couple of people who did that. It was such a godsend. It kept me from going out to places that I was going to waste my time on. And
because you'd see the video and go, oh, yeah, it's bad. Or you'd see and go, this is great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? Like, well, that works for every end of the market. So, yeah, I mean, think about it.
Okay, so I see you're dabbling in this. How do you take this now into selling?
I started a hobby blog, and at the time, a friend of mine jumped on Facebook chat and said, how are you, or he said, have you gone on Twitter yet? And I said, I have an account, but I haven't really done anything, and I don't really get it. And this is late 2008. And he's like, well, dude, I created this software, and it's made it really easy to grow a following. And once I've grown this following, I see these benefits, and I'm like, all these light bulbs started going off, right? Because at the time, I'd been email marketing. And so I thought people following me on Twitter would be a lot like an email list. I put out a Twitter status update. They see it, they click on it, just like sending out an email. And early on, it actually was. I could send 500 visits to a website in about 3 minutes, any website I wanted, any link I put out. Things have changed a lot now. I get about 3 hits now. But so I got on, and that was just like growing really fast. And I was like, man, there's probably an opportunity here for an information business if I can figure out everything I can about Twitter. Nobody really knows much about it. It's early. Cement myself in the game early as kind of an expert with it. Great. So I just became passionate about it. I started blogging every day, spend 30 minutes to an hour writing a blog post, just saying, okay, my following today started at 6,000. I was following this many people were following me back. Blah, 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 blah. These are the 3 things that I've learned today. These are a couple tools that I've found.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so every day I would just blog, talk about new tools, talk about people I met that are really cool, whatever it may be. And within a month, that site started, like, because I was blogging about Twitter, talking about tools and resources about Twitter, and I had this story about me growing. It's kind of the backstory, my account. It started getting shared like crazy on Twitter. And within a month, I was getting over 1,000 uniques a day to a brand new site. 30 days in, put up an email opt-in form, started generating 50 to 100 new leads a day. The only thing I sold them was my friend's software. A couple times a month, I'd push it out. It started making me 500 first month, maybe 1,000 the second month. By the third month, people were asking me to write an ebook, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do that anyway, so I'll do it. So I buckled down, wrote this ebook, put it out, and from the time I launched that until the time I met my business partner and we kind of went in a different direction and took off, probably generated $3,000 to $4,000 a month from that ebook, and then the sale of that software and 1 or 2 other little products.
Selling a book about Twitter to people who are reading your blog about Twitter.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Actually, there were a couple of people who did that at the time, and I wish that I jumped in when there was an opportunity for it, because people were dying to figure out social media. They were dying to be told what exactly to do, and they didn't love Twitter as much as they do now because it was intimidating.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Dude, I was so big back then that like I was in the top 200 most followed people on all of Twitter. In fact, I was on in the early days. Justine?
Yep.
She was in this chat room for this guy who had launched this 30-day show where he was broadcasting his life for 24 hours a day. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we talking about Justin Kahn?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I was fascinated with that. I forget what year it was, 2006 maybe. And every day I would go and just watch this guy's life. And I was fascinated with the business side of it because it became a business within a week or 2 of him launching it. And you could sit in on the business meetings. They were talking about what they're going to do with these sponsors, blah, blah, blah. Well, she was in there all the time. So there's like this little community of about 50 people that were there every day, loosely every other day at the most. And she's like, guys, we go to Twitter and follow me. I'm trying to be the most followed person on there. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So we go to Twitter and I go to follow her. I sign up for an account. I go to follow her. And I made her 3 or 4 followers behind number 1, which I think was Ev at the time, or Jack.
The founder.
Yeah. And she had 398 followers. And she was the second most followed person on Twitter. Yeah. Talk about a weird experience. And I never went back because it just didn't make any sense to me. I didn't know anybody on there. So anyway, I started blogging about it, met my business partner, and I said, hey, you know what? You do this. My audience would love to hear about LinkedIn, I'm sure. They're interested in...
This is Lewis.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, he was obsessed with LinkedIn. He wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said to him, what was the partnership going to be at the time?
There wasn't really a partnership. I just said, you know what? We should just partner up for a webinar. And in the real estate business, I had a lot of friends that were in real estate information business. And I had sold my interest in my real estate company at this point and left. And I said, you know, we should do a webinar where you invite your audience, I'll invite mine. You teach on LinkedIn, I'll teach on Twitter. We'll give them both new audiences some new perspectives on things. At the end, we'll take our ebooks and a couple other things, we'll combine it, and we'll sell it. And we'll sell it for half the price it normally is. He's like, all right, let's do it. And so we did it. And we actually had a guy that hosted it and kind of was a mediator, and he killed the webinar before we could really sell. I got like one little blurb in, and we sold one sale. We had 500 people on and generated $100 in revenue. So it's 20 cents a head, which is awful. And so Lewis was all pissed off. I was pissed. Like a week or 2 later, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to give up yet. Let's do this again, just me and you, and let's really study and find out what it takes to create a webinar that sells and does well. We did that and gave it another shot. The night before the webinar, I called my mentor at the time. Do you have a mentor in business?
Yes, actually. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Bob Heiler.
Yeah. And you've probably gotten some incredible advice. It's made a big difference.
Some of it's pretty painful and it's all good.
Yeah. This phone call may have altered my history forever as far as what I'm doing now and where I got to, because without this, I don't know how we would have done. I said to him, I said, you know, hey, Kevin, his name is Kevin Bidwell, brilliant guy. I got 1,100 people sign up for this webinar. And he's like, what? He's like, dude, that's a lot of people. You just started doing this a couple months ago. How'd you do that? Good job. How many people can do that? I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'm not nervous about speaking in front of them, but I wondered if you had any advice that I could generate more revenue for my time on the call and everything. And he says, well, what are you going to sell? And I said, well, we got this package of stuff that normally sells for like $200 and something. We're going to sell it for $100. He said, okay, but you need something higher price. And I was like, I do? And he said, yeah. And why? And he said, well, you're going to have people on there with a lot of money that trust you, and they're going to want to buy something from you. And I was like, well, what do I create? And he's like, what can I sell? And he's like, I don't know. What kind of value can you bring at a higher price? And so I hung up the phone. I thought about it. The next morning, I thought about it. About 2 hours before the webinar, it came to me that we could offer some consultation, live consultation. We could offer some done-for-you stuff, and we could offer the package of stuff we were going to sell for $100. And we'd price it at $497 and see what happened.
So live consultation, meaning you do a phone call with the person.
Yeah, an hour call about how to use Twitter, and with Lewis and I, how to use Twitter and how to use LinkedIn.
And done for you, meaning they tell you a little bit about themselves and you create their Twitter and LinkedIn account?
Well, we create it, and then I got them 10,000 followers, and these weren't like just, you know, now you can just order that on Fiverr, but these were like targeted. So what's your business? Who's your ideal customer? And then I knew at the time how to go out and find these people really well.
How would you get 10,000 followers for someone?
So, for example, if they were, let me just think of some real examples. Okay, so I had a person who was in, what was some of the ones we got? One lady had a tennis business, like a tennis coaching thing. I don't know, I forget what it was, but some sort of tennis business. So she wanted tennis players. So I would do keyword research or keyword searches for anybody mentioning playing tennis. I just played tennis. I'm going to play tennis. And then had a software at the time that I could set up and follow all of those accounts. And I had to follow at the time about 25,000 people to get 10,000 people to follow back. So I'd just set up the software, monitor it. I'd think of new keywords. I'd go and plug them in, find new honey holes. And if there was like a tennis instructor on there, there was like a famous tennis instructor, I knew how to find those guys. I would follow a lot of their followers.
And at the time, Google wasn't aggressively shutting down software like that. Twitter. And so you could just use software like that. It wouldn't cost too much money, and it would just...
There was nothing even in the terms of service that prohibited it at that time. It was the terms of service was like 3 paragraphs. It was so...
Okay, so we got we got consultation, we got do it for you, and then there was this other product. What else were you selling?
Ebooks. So we had
Ebooks.
Yeah, we had
each of you had written a book.
Yeah, well, there was I think 3 at the time in total, and then that included some online videos and stuff, and yeah.
So I used to hate when I see people do consultation, I think, oh, this is going to take up a lot of time, and it doesn't scale, and it means that they're small time and that they're not really going anywhere if they're still doing consultation. What I've discovered is consultation isn't just a way to make money; it's also a way to really understand what people need, so you know what products to build.
Yeah.
Did you have that same issue? I mean, that same realization?
No,
You already
I
knew by
never
then.
approached it from that perspective. For me, it was, this is awesome because you have this weird, obscure business that, based on what you tell me and who your customer avatar is, I can give you exact advice on how to use this tool or that tool. And because I have a great understanding of the tool, I just need to know who your customer is. And
I see.
so it was fun for me because they were like, oh my God, I never thought. I had one person who had a paint repair business and they sold these lipstick cases of, I'll fix a scratch in your car. OEM paints. So they had 300 different little lipstick things, depending on what kind of car you had, what model, what color. And I set up keyword searches on Twitter for someone scratched my car, dinged my car, like 50 different things I could think of, that when they would say that, it would shoot them it would just follow their account. And just from going to follow their account, if they followed back, immediately would send them a direct message saying, sorry to hear about your car. We have a solution that might help. Let us know if we can help you or something like that.
I see.
And, to get a call a month later, Sean, we're getting 5 to 10 calls a day from Twitter. This is great. Thank you so much. And, things like that.
So the big realization for you with the webinars was you had to study how to sell in webinars, and you also had to sell higher price products. Is that right?
Yeah. So, sort of, yes and no. And we switched gears from that. But that early on, we ended up, that webinar, we went from $100 the first crack at it to a couple weeks later doing $13,500
in a single webinar.
Yeah. And
how did you get people to join the webinar?
So we had an email list that we've been building from our blogs.
Okay.
We had a Facebook friend list that we were just inviting them all to an event that had a link in the event to sign up. We were putting out tweets, and that was basically and LinkedIn, all the groups, we were sending email messages through the group announcement. You can do it once a week. You can email your group, everybody in the group, and it goes to their inbox because it comes from LinkedIn.com.
It's one of the things that Lewis taught me. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. And a lot of those things worked a lot better back then than they do now. Like some of the things I wouldn't recommend because they just don't work like they did back then. But anyway, that generated that kind of attendance and that audience. And I think people kind of liked us, and we were a fun duo at the time. It was entertaining and whatnot. So I think people were, not that they liked us, but we put out a lot of value into the place. And so we hadn't sold anything.
You guys are also fun. I tend to be really, I'm like a disciplinarian when I do my interviews. I'm here in your home doing your interview for your audience, and I realize I'm pushing the guy when what I should be thinking is, Sean knows his audience. He can take as much time as he wants. But
I get carried away, dude. I talk too much. So please.
But you and Lewis are really good together in that you don't just keep it focused on the information. You also riff with each other well.
Yeah,
you play off each other well.
Yeah, I have a webinar tonight with Amy Porterfield, and I have the ultimate prank plan on her for the webinar.
It's that kind of stuff that's really fun.
So we did 13.5 that second time
then?
around, and that for us was like, oh my God, this is an eye opener. We just each made $6,000 in an hour, and that's unbelievable. We're just going to do webinars all the time, and that's basically what happened. But what we knew is we could put people on a webinar. So I said to Lewis, we should reach out to all these mega influencers in our space. And if people see us working with them, there's that association factor that goes on. So if I'm associating with very powerful people perceive me to be a certain way. And what powerful person who's trying to sell a product or information would not want to get in front of a large audience like that? All they have to do is show up.
So you just bring them out, people? Who? Give me an example of who you'd bring out to your webinar.
So we would bring out like Joel Comm or Yara Starik or, the names are all different than they were a few years ago.
But those guys in the early days of Twitter especially had huge followings.
Yeah.
Joel Comm had that iFart app, and he had a top-selling book.
Yeah, we've had both of these guys on for.
One sec. It's hard to hear you because you're off mic.
We've had both of these guys on. I don't know if you know this book.
Yeah, Robert Greene.
Yeah, we just had Robert Greene. These authors, I can get any author on a webinar.
Because you have a big audience, and what's in it for them? They talk about their product, and then you get to pitch your products too.
No, we don't pitch anything. So we let them come on and talk all about the book they're launching. And then at the end, they sell their books.
Isn't that like an interview, though?
Sort of, but it's just like my audience loves Tim Ferriss. We had Tim Ferriss on. Tim talked all about his book. At the end, said, if you guys want to buy my book, cool. If you buy 5 copies, I'll give you autograph. If you buy 10, I'll do this. If you buy 100, I'll do this. If you buy 1,000, I'll do this. Blah, blah, blah.
See, so he's selling it in a meaningful way.
In a meaningful way. Gary Vee
your audience, and then you get to be associated with him. And the reason it's a webinar and not something like what you're doing with me right now is because you want people to be there live?
Oh, yeah. We want the live experience. It's like a rock concert. You know?
Because people get to talk to each other.
They get to interact. They get to ask. I have Gary Vee coming up in November for his book, The Right Jab Hook, I think is what it's called. I probably screwed that up. Jib Jag Hook?
I forget. I love the design of the cover,
so good,
and I forget the name of the book all the time. I'll find it.
So we got him coming up, and these guys, they love it. So I knew then if we could kind of build our name and build our presence by working with some of the top guys, and it's exactly what happened. And what ended up happening as well is they said, man, you guys, I've never generated that kind of, most of these guys weren't doing webinars at the time. In fact, they would say, well, how do I do it? Is it just like giving a speech on stage? And a lot of these guys were speaking at seminars and selling their stuff. I said, it's the exact same. Take your speech you did, and we'd just do it over the web. And then they would call us when it was over, like, how did we do? And hey, you generated X amount of sale. Or we would call them and say, how did we do? And they'd, oh my God, I can't believe it. Or they'd call us freaking out. And I just did $50,000 in sales or $30,000, whatever.
And that has, by the way, the book is called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And that would happen. Who sold $50,000 worth of stuff?
Dude, we've done over $200,000 on one webinar. But times have changed.
You say who?
I said, Than Merrill. Do you know Than Merrill? It's a name nobody would know. He was on A&E's Flip This House.
Okay.
I've heard there's been $1 million webinars as well.
And what did he get to sell that was $50,000 worth in one webinar?
It was actually 200. We sold coaching. So people who wanted to do the kind of things that we do. They had a $5,000, $8,000, and $15,000 coaching package that pretty much guaranteed them success. And if they didn't get success, they got their money back. And
I see. So you guys in that case were selling.
Yeah. So we did 2 webinars and generated over $230,000 in revenue, of which I think we got a 30% cut. So it's just, and we had affiliates that would have these. When we used to have $1,000 product, we do a webinar, we do $80,000 in sales, and with digital products, we split the commission, split the revenue. So if we do 80,000, you get 40 for bringing your audience. We get 40 for having the product and doing the presentation and selling it and having content, customer support, blah, blah, blah. And we have that particular affiliate that we did so well with, took the recording and would hold a live webinar and just hit play on a thing, make it full screen and play it back as if we were there and then sit in the background and answer questions. We'd be at lunch, Lewis and I would be at lunch, and I'd look at my email and I'm like, dude, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And it'd be like receipts for $1,000 sales, like 3-4 a minute while we're both sitting there. We're like, what is going on? Like, this has to be a mistake. And then, we get a call later. Like, we're like, we just did $40,000 sales, no idea. And then this affiliate would, oh yeah, I ran back a replay of your webinar.
And the way you would work it is you would partner up with someone who has a list.
Yeah.
You would put the webinar on for their audience. You would sell, and then you'd split the revenue with them for bringing people into the webinar.
Exactly.
And would you also get to grow your mailing list that way?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
How?
They would email to our webinar registration page.
And you got to keep the email addresses from people who came to that registration page.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay.
And we do the same for theirs. So
what do you mean?
We would promote their products or services if there was a good fit for our audience.
I see. Okay. And is there ever any hard feelings if you say to someone, hey, put on a webinar for us. We love the size of your audience. We will sell for you, et cetera. And then they come back and say, hey, Sean, I want to pitch my stuff to your audience. Your audience is bigger than mine, and I've got this great product that they would love.
Yeah, there can be hard feelings. Last night I had somebody on Facebook chatting me, and I was just like, dude, it's just not a good fit. I'm sorry. If it was, you've supported me. I'd love to support you, but I can't do it. And you know what? I hope they understand, because I've had people tell me the same thing, and I get it. I'm not, if you have a business selling shoes, I'm not going to ask you to display a bunch of hammers in your window. Your audience doesn't want that, and they get it too. But they obviously would love it if I just said yeah. And the reality is, I wouldn't be able to sell if I was a shoe salesman. I'd be able to sell some hammers, but I would turn away a lot of my shoe customers in the process and probably do more damage than good. And there's some people that just don't care and they'll just do it. And for me, that's one thing. And a lot of this has been centered around money, but our overriding principle really has just been to provide value. You really can't get ahead without providing value at all. And I've found in business and in life in general that those that provide the most value generally get the most out of life, whether it be lifestyle, monetary, you name it. And so all of our stuff has always been above and beyond, and like just simple, stupid things too. Like if somebody, when we sold the $1,000 products, we'd send a handwritten note with brownies, and it cost us $12. But I was like, these people are putting a lot of brownies on my table, so hey, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing your success. If you need,
you would go and buy brownies for them?
Yeah, well, we streamlined it through send out cards, so we didn't have to do it, and there was a hand.
Send out cards can send brownies too?
Yeah, and a card in handwritten font.
I see.
So you write the thing once, send it to them, and then they print it. It looks just like ink. And it actually, I have a cool story. If you go to Google and Google the $1,000 brownie story, you'll see it. But it's just about how that actually.
You want me to do it on camera or just?
No,
do it?
You don't have to do it. But if anybody listening wants to do it, just about the power of reciprocity. I had a guy who was ready to refund his $1,000 product and thought, you know what, these guys gave me brownies. I probably should at least look at what I bought and make sure it's not something I should keep. And he said 5 hours later, he was like, Jesus, this is one of the best investments I've ever made in my business.
So let me ask a few questions about the business and then go into the delegation and how you're able to sleep and not work nonstop. First, how big is the mailing list right now?
For marketing, because we have affiliates, we have other sub lists that we don't market. About 100 and over 100.
Over 100,000.
Somewhere between 100 and 150. I don't even know. I'd have to add up some sub lists. And
second, what other products were you selling? This wasn't all your coaching, ebooks, and do it for you. How did you evolve the products?
So we started creating. Originally, we had a training that covered all social media. So it was the big six, which is Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, blogging, WordPress, and email. So,
and you guys wouldn't write all these yourselves, right? You'd partner
Lewis
up.
and I did. No, we did everything originally. And so it was like how to use Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter to get traffic to your blog to build an email list. And that was the whole thing. And then how to email market to them. So it was like this thing that worked really well together. People loved it. And then we had a lot of people that couldn't afford $1,000. And so we said, you know what? People just want to know if they can buy LinkedIn training, or they want to buy the Twitter training, or they want to buy the YouTube training. I said, let's just do LinkedIn. I think Lewis had the idea originally. Let's do LinkedIn training. I'm like, let's do it. So we did it. We launched it. We reached out to all of our affiliate partners, said, hey, can you help us promote this new product? It's $100, but it's the best, it's $1,000 training for $100. Sure. We did probably, honestly, I don't remember, but say 50, 60, 70 grand in sales in a 2 or 3 week period. And we decided to use ClickBank at the time, because Lewis and I both were going on extended vacations at that point. I was going to be gone for 6 weeks. He was going to be gone. So who's going to pay the checks, to the affiliates? It's going to be this and that. ClickBank handles all of that for you. They cut you a check for your money, and they cut the affiliates the check. They handle the W-9s, the 1099s, all the compliance issues. So let's use ClickBank because we're not going to be there to write the checks. So we did. When we were done, a couple weeks passed. I looked at the analytics. I was like, holy S word, Lewis, we're still doing $300 a day in profit. He's like, are we really? And we looked, and that didn't change. Andrew, it did not change. So after a couple months, I'm like, man, it would be great if we had multiple legs bringing in revenue like this, because we're always, who's the next affiliate that's going to promote our $1,000 product?
What do you mean? How did you get people to keep coming in if you guys weren't doing any more webinars?
So this is like a secret not a secret, but we were still doing the webinars, but it was a big hustle. It was like, okay, we got to get this affiliate, and then we got to go to this event and network, and we'll meet this affiliate, and we'll buy him drinks, and we'll do it was a lot of work. So we did this thing. We generated $300 a day in sales, and the reason why that happened was when you have a launch that gets a little bit of success on ClickBank, you have this score called a gravity, and your gravity score rises, and there's all of these, literally millions of affiliates that do nothing but affiliate marketing all over the world, from every part of the world, and they pay attention to all these sites that track gravity. Outside of ClickBank, there's ClickBank that can track gravity of products, but outside of ClickBank, there's all these sites that have leaderboards, top 10 in business and health and fitness and social media and marketing, blah, blah, blah. And so we rose up on some leaderboards for that launch on these third-party sites. All these affiliates started doing article writing, SEO, website reviews. They would buy our product and then review it. They would do a YouTube review. They would do this, that, blah, blah, blah.
Also, they could promote it through their affiliate account and then get a share of the sale. And they think that it's going to do well because they see that it's doing well for everyone else.
Exactly. They would put it in their autoresponders and their email campaigns. They would put graphics on their blogs.
I see.
Yeah, at one point we had over 1,000 websites advertising one of our products. And so what happens is, you might have 1,000 affiliates to get one sale a year, or 10 affiliates to get one sale every 3 months, or 100 to get one a month. But they put these tools in place, or they put these things out into the web. I mean, I think if you go to YouTube and search any of our product names, there's hundreds of reviews for our products. So every day sales have generated. So we had one. I said it'd be great if we had multiple legs. I got this idea a couple months after we launched that to do a YouTube training because I had so much success with YouTube and real estate. And Lewis said we should probably get someone else who's doing it actively and doing well. We published James Wedmore for Video Traffic Academy. As soon as he said yes to that deal, I said, you know what, Amy Porterfield would be a great fit for Facebook. Reached out to her. She's like, yes, I'd love to. And at the time, Lewis and I had built a big enough audience that they saw a lot of value in what we had just with working with us. So it was really easy. And that's what we did. So we launched those products, and then we've gone on to do a few more and kind of.
And you created the products with them?
Yeah. So we had them create all the content, and then we created the products. So we took that content, packaged it up, made it sexy, and then pushed it out to our audience, and then got all of our affiliates to push it out. And then that brought in all these other affiliates from raising up in the rankings. And
you know what? I feel like that could be a whole interview on its own. How do you take ideas that work for other people and turn them into a product that your customers find valuable, worth paying for, and that it works and that it's interesting? But
maybe there's the whole publisher model.
Yeah,
it's funny. Lewis and I, we started this over 2 years ago, and it's kind of become this hot thing with a lot of the guys in our industry who are like, they've gone from one product to the next of their own, and they kind of get seen as this one. I don't want to say anything, but now they're like, oh, well, we don't really have to do that. We can just publish other people. We've got the audience and we've got the resources to.
Publishing other people it's more than just saying, hey, I'll record your stuff and then sell it to my audience. There's some training that needs to go in, some format that you need to adopt.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, and our whole thing is like, for the people that we publish, literally all they do is create the content and be available for promotion during the launch phases and ongoing. And they always want to, because if we have, if I say Andrew from Mixergy wants to do a webinar and he's going to get 1,000 people on, they're going to go, hell yeah, I want to get in front of that audience, and they'll do it. So, but we take all of that, we create all of the training, and our trainings, online training has become really popular. Really just in the last year, I've seen a bigger explosion on the masses. We're talking companies like Creative Live, Udemy, what's the Khan Academy, things like that have kind of taken this internet marketing world and said, oh, okay, it's not just that, it's everybody's using it now. So anyway, yeah, that was, so we take everything, package it up, make it sexy. My goal is to always have the best training from the best educators, presented in the best light, and have the best customer service. Everything I want to be the best, and I want to have the lowest prices.
To do all that and still be able to go surfing and still be able to go to sleep and not feel like you're working all the time, you need some process in place. Yeah. Talk to me about, maybe we can start off with the mindset, and I know you need to go soon, but maybe you can just tell me a little bit about the mindset and then give me a few tactics that we can use. And I say we, not in the royal sense. I mean, really, I am like the person in the audience who says, I need to do less. I need to streamline more.
Yeah.
What's the mindset?
So I want to just take you back to my real estate company. One of the first things I did with this, I was the guy that was going out to every property, taking the pictures, shooting those videos, right? Oftentimes I would get pushed to the wayside because I had something more important. And what would happen is that property did not go up on our website on Wednesday. It would go up the following Tuesday because I didn't have time to get back out there again until then. So I was such a good photographer that I had to do all the photos. I had to do it. And I just finally said, okay, I'm going to buy into this process. I'll hire a guy. Hired him. First couple weeks, I was really stoked because I would ask him to do it by Wednesday, and 2 days before it was turned in. And then I said, okay, now that you can do that, maybe you can learn how to do the website and putting it on the web. Let me show you. So I spent a couple hours one day with him. Within a month, he was taking all the pictures and doing all the listings on the website, which all of a sudden, imagine driving to 2 homes and taking those pictures, plugging them in your computer, doing that. It was like 6 hours work to 0. But I said, you know what, Kevin, your photography sucks. Let me give you some lessons. The next time you go out, call me. I'll take you out. And not that it wasn't like that, but I was like, there's a lot you can improve. In fact, when you take a picture of the house, if there's a trash can on the front, in front of the garage, move it to the side. If you're in the kitchen, move the dirty paper towel, things like that. Oh, okay. And so within 2 months, he's taking almost as good as photos as I, but he's doing it consistently. They're getting up on the web quicker. Oftentimes properties were selling before I even would have had them on the web to begin with. So I was like, man, there's some freaking magic to this. And this cost me $50 a week. And I'm earning well beyond that on an hourly basis for the time I saved. So thinking about things from that perspective. And then what it took for me in moving out here, originally in that real estate business, it took for me identifying all of the things that I did on a daily basis. So I took a notebook with me to the office, and I would write down 9:05 checking emails. As soon as I'm done checking emails, 9:10 uploading a video, 9:40 faxing paperwork, 9 blah, 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 blah. Literally. So after a week, I looked back at my notebook and I started seeing all these activities that were things I did not, that a monkey could do. And I don't mean to devalue a person who works for $12 to $20 an hour, call them a monkey, but literally they were so simple that you could have taught anybody to do them. And there's a lot of people that are very happy with $12 to $20 an hour and work, and it literally changes their life if they don't have a job or if they're not earning what they want, to be able to earn that. And it's a big deal. And if you're like, for me, everybody I've ever employed, I'm like the coolest boss you're ever going to have. I don't give a crap what you do as long as you get the job done. I don't care when you do, just get the job done. Impress me on an ongoing basis, and you're cool. And there's no rules, there's no meetings, there's no times, nothing. And so people have always loved working for me at any wage. And if they have a problem that they work 40 hours a week and I might work 10 and I might earn 10 times their amount, they're not the right fit for our company, because that's just not. I didn't hire them to have feelings of jealousy or envy or anything. I hire people who are happy with doing design work, happy with doing code work, and they're happy with the salary I'm paying them, and they don't care what I do.
The first person who you hired to do this, you took out and you showed him how to get rid of the garbage cans and to be aware of the garbage cans in the first place. You can't continue to do that with each person that you hire. No. What do? Do you have a manual where you show people how to do what you need them to do?
So it's either that or I have other people within the company train them. So I've got a great staff that there's 3 to 4 people that know how to do almost every aspect of the business. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I just hired a second customer service person. One of my people who's been doing customer service forever. I said, train her on the whole thing.
When you say trainer, is it just try to remember how you do things and try to be aware of it and do it? Or is it something more formal than that? Like, here are the 5 ways that we answer a question about a refund. Here are the different things that we do specifically. I want you to do it like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that.
Yeah, I would tell both of them what her responsibilities are going to be. So when I hire you, you are responsible for X, Y, Z, and A, B, C, and D. And then I would call another person on my staff. This person in particular was virtual. And I said, okay, I just hired Marilyn. And actually, this is kind of funny, but here's a classic example. I hired a new customer support person, right? I got 50 resumes in 48 hours. I shut the ad down and said, fuck, how am I going to look through 50 resumes? I mean, it's time consuming. Yep. And, everybody who applied is qualified. So I called the person one of my assistants, and I said, hey, I got 50 resumes in my inbox. Go through and narrow it down to 5. Let me know those 5 and I'll set up interviews. And she said, you know what? Why don't you let me phone interview all of them? I'll narrow it down to my top 3. I know who you are. I know who you like to work with. And I'll give you 3 that you can go meet for coffee, because it was a local person I was hiring. Awesome. So 2 days later, hey, you have an appointment Friday and you have 2 appointments on Monday. And that's a great example right there of leveraging people to do work for you. And they did a better job, because there's a good chance, Andrew. You know what? I'm embarrassed to admit this, but she said to me, let me do the phone interviews, because the last thing I want to do is give you these 5 back. And I know there's a good chance you're not going to call them, and it's just a waste of my time.
I get that. I think what I'm learning from you is that it's not as structured as I'm looking for my process to be. I read a book called Sam Carpenter's Work the System, where he talks about documenting every single thing. Yeah. And for you, that's not you.
I'm not that guy.
You're communicating who you are, and the people around you get to know you, and then they understand the kind of person that you want to hire.
Yeah. In that scenario, And they, so my business has some structure to it. A lot of structure to it.
What kind of structure?
So we do a webinar every week, and we map out 8 weeks, and that's a lie. Actually, half the time we map it out, half the time it's on the fly. But we know we have to do it. So there's people responsible for doing certain duties with those webinars, and they're coming at me saying, hey, what's the webinar next week? I want to get this done, get it ready early, get it tested. Okay, cool. I don't know yet. Give me a day, and I find it out. But they're holding me accountable in a lot of ways. Oftentimes we will have a map. Where it's scheduled out, and they do all their work in 1 week for all of that work for 8 weeks. That generates revenue. We have product launches. I have a team that I've outsourced for years that's done our product launches. So I call them up and I say, okay, we have a product launch in October, November, December, and January. Here's what they are. And they say, cool. They get the checklist out. They get everything done. They come back at me once a week with updates. Can you review this? Blah blah blah.
And they have a standard checklist that they go through.
Yeah, we've got it down to a science. So, yeah. So
and
that's
when you say that things were chaotic before, this is the kind of stuff that you needed to do. You needed to put together a checklist so that you know exactly how to launch.
I didn't do it. They did it.
They did it.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
so now you're hiring them and you're saying,
not that
figure
guy. Yeah, they're the ones that like that. I'm not. I honestly hate structure. I am working my ass off right now. We're not going to have time to go into some of the stuff I'm working on. Maybe we follow this up at another date. But I don't know if my calendar this month, in the iPhone, when you look at your calendar, it'll have little dots for days you have appointments. I would usually have 3 appointments at most on my calendar in a month. It's kind of stressful for me to look at it and see 11 on here right now. 10 or 11. And but I've had to lately because I'm back in kind of a hustle mode. There's no waves in Santa Barbara right now. So I said, you know what? I want to work my ass off this summer so that I can double my income while I surf all fall, winter, and spring. And that's what I've been doing. That's part of this podcast and the book that I'm working on for this podcast and all that.
All right. There's so many other questions that I want to ask you, but this won't be our last conversation. Do you have more time for just those rapid fire questions that you usually ask people?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it quickly. Lightning round.
5 minutes.
Number 1, books that have been pivotal for you that you recommend for the person listening.
Number 1, my favorite book ever is Leading an Inspired Life by Jim Rohn. It's probably one of the most impactful books I've ever read. It just makes me want to be amazing. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm so cool, amazing. I mean like I want to be the best person I can be. I want to be the best dad I can be. I want to be the best friend I can be. That book is so hard to read more than 3 pages because you just get so like, yes, like you just want to put it down and jump up and be amazing. So
Good book to read in the morning.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And then from a business perspective, I'm a big fan of, and really kind of been molded this way, of Apple products. And so when I read the Steve Jobs bio, there were so many light bulb moments in there where I realized how important design, UI, UX, and from a product standpoint. So for me, he had some things that, like our members areas on our website. So if you buy one of our trainings, you log in. And we used to have all these videos and these sidebars and these widgets and these menus and these footer menus and blah, blah. And so, and at the same time, Derek Halpern and I have been having conversations about simplicity on a website so that there's a certain call to action. And I read that book, and there was a story in there about a reporter in Africa who handed this kid his iPad who'd never even seen an electronic before, and the kid intuitively knew what to do with his iPad, intuitively. And I just thought, you know what? And there was a whole chapter kind of on that philosophy of how Steve built his products so that things were just intuitive and brilliant.
Which of the books are we talking about?
The Steve Jobs biography, yeah.
Walter Isaacson's book, okay.
Yeah. Have you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it came out, I don't remember that chapter though, but I do remember the story.
I can't remember if that's a blog post I read or a story, and like 10 people said, no, it's in the book. So it could be either or. But he talks a lot about design, and I'm getting texts. I need to get on this webinar. But what it meant for me was when people buy my products, I analyzed refunds, and I knew that 90% of the people who refunded our products had not even spent 10 minutes in the members area. So if they had logged in, it was somewhere between 1 minute and 10 minutes. And I said, you know what can I do to get them in there longer? Because I know if they'll digest our content, they will stay longer. And anybody who spent more than 10 minutes, like there's less than a 1% refund rate for those people. Because I know they get value when they get into our trainings. And so I said, screw it. I'm going to get rid of all the navigation and make the freaking training look like an iPad. Where one of the icons is module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you just land. You're like, oh, I'm familiar with this interface. Our time on site doubled. Our refund rate went down, and that just told me it's just like make things simple, beautiful, brilliant, easy to use, and you want your customers just to rave and be like lunatics about your products.
Well, Sean, I wish we had even more time to do this. I'm hoping this won't be the last time.
Let's do another one because we didn't get to a lot of stuff, and I'd love if I tell you what, if you guys are listening and you've enjoyed this, go over to themoneypillow.com, leave a comment, shoot Andrew a tweet or shoot me a tweet or however you want. Let us know if you want to hear more. And Andrew, if anybody even is listening, if they say they want to hear more, I'm going to nail you down to do more.
I'd love it.
Is it good?
Thank you.
All right. No, thank you, dude. This has been a big honor for you to come on and interview me. And I hope you were recording because I screwed up the first couple minutes.
Oh, yes, I always have a backup.
You did? Okay. Literally like 3 minutes in, I'm like, oh, that little button hasn't been pushed. So, all right, dude. Well, hey, I always end my show with this. Where can people find you?
The site is Mixergy, Mixergy.
And I want to have you on to tell your story. We got to figure out how we can. There's been some things you said, a lot of things you struggle with. You don't want to be there as much. And I've been thinking about having a show where I've got 1, 2, or 3 guests who are struggling with that, who have successful businesses, and then having 2 or 3 of those guests that I've had on as well. So it's almost like a panel. So these are things I'm having problems with, and then getting kind of like this mastermind effect. Would that be of value?
Yeah, I'd love to do it.
Awesome. All right.
Cool.